Michael Scholz is head of Project Hub MEOS at Fraunhofer IPMS. And Michael's talk today is on multimodal, modular, and mobile sensor system for improved patient monitoring. So Michael, looks like everything is good and you're ready to go. You have a total of 20 minutes, so about 15 minutes for the speaking portion, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. Michael, welcome again, and please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to my talk. To repeat the title, Multimodal, Modular, and Mobile Sensor System for Improved Patient Monitoring. What I will be reporting today is the result of an internal project by the Fraunhofer Society here in Germany, and the project was coordinated by my colleague Christian Münzenmeier and by myself, and it was related to some internal funds released to cope with the COVID pandemic by Fraunhofer. So the situation and the motivation for our work that we did in this project that we'll present here today is how to deal with patients that are actually suffering from COVID-19. Of course, if the conditions of those patients are so severe that they are already in the intensive care unit, then you have all the monitoring that you need. You have ECG, you have blood pressure, you have pulse oximetry, maybe CO2 and others as well. However, especially for COVID-19, there is the recommendation of sorry for the acronym, that's the Robert Koch Institute in Germany. That's the German equivalent of the CDC in the US. There's a recommendation by the Robert Koch Institute that even people that have been diagnosed with COVID-19 that are either still at home or that are in the normal ward of a hospital shall also have close monitoring in order to detect severe progressions of the disease at an early stage, and to shift them either from home to the hospital or within the hospital from the normal ward into the intensive care unit at the right point in time in order to prevent any further damage to the human body. However, there is one slight problem. Such vital parameter monitoring that's requested by the Robert Koch Institute is, at least in Germany, I don't know if the situation is different in the US, but at least here in Germany, such kind of monitoring is not a standard, or it's not from a technical point of view, not available. And therefore, we came up with the idea to see if by some advanced sensors, variables and non-variables, as you will see on the next couple of slides. So to putting together those sensors into one system, if we can come up to overcome that problem that's listed here on this slide. And this resulted in the project that I've mentioned at the very beginning, which is called M3 Infect, that I represent here, infect with the German spelling of the word infect. So as I said, the motivation and the goals are the same. So the idea is to build a multimodal, modular, and mobile sensor system that can detect an deterioration of the status of the patient at an early stage. We use COVID-19 as an example and as a starting point, but we also had during the course of the project always in mind to extend the use case to other diseases that might exist. Of course, we want to have multi-sensors in the system to provide high safety. We want to have the system modular in order to adapt the sensors that are needed to the disease. And as we have learned from the medical doctors that we had as consultancy in our project, you need different sensors for different diseases. There is not one system that covers everything. And we had the idea to have it mobile so that you can use it in homes, you can use it in nursing at home at the patient, or you can use it in nursing homes as well, in addition to clinical environments. And at the end, we came up with 7 sensor systems that we integrated into the system. Three of them are wearables. One is an ECG system that can be worn as some sort of a vest. By the way, that would have been the topic of the talk by Christian Hoffmann yesterday at this conference, but unfortunately, Christian felt ill, so the talk could not be given. Then we have a vest that will give spatial resolved information about the ventilation system of the lung. And we have a sensor wristlet that will provide medical grade data. So in comparison to all the Fitbits and Apple Watches and so on. Then in the middle, we have a second group, which we call contactless biosignal acquisition, which is not a one-to-one relationship between a sensor and the patient, but those systems can actually cover an entire room with several patients, and they are based both on radar technology and also on optical technologies. And we have two systems for breath analysis, one for physical breath analysis, and one for the chemical analysis of the exhaled breath. And what we did actually achieved within the project was that we came up with those sensor components, and they have been preclinically tested. We actually developed or we followed all the regulatory requirements to bring those sensor prototypes actually into clinics for first test. And we also developed a concept for system integration and also for the AI, for the artificial intelligence framework to process all the data. Now it's a tour de force to cover all those 7 sensor systems. I will have to make it very quick for everyone. I apologize for that. If you have questions, we can come back later on, or you may schedule a meeting with me on Umbrella if you have specific questions to one sensor systems afterwards. So this is the ECG system that can be worn as some sort of by a belt system, so to speak, which is a 3-channel ECG called cardio textile that has the electronics on the back and that also transmit the ECG data wirelessly to a central processing unit, a central PC, and so on. We have this radar sensor in the second column that I've presented on the slide. So here is the goal is to have a simultaneous monitoring of multiple persons, covering the breathing, the breath frequency, and also the heart rate. And it's a multi-channel sensor, so you can actually capture the data and the vital parameters for multiple persons at the same time. So it's a K-band radar system with quite a number of channels. And actually the colleagues were able to extract parameters like the respiration frequency and the heartbeat from the signals that they acquired with this radar sensor. It works through clothes and so on because they are transparent, of course, for the radar data, and it's actually measures the movement of the chest. And by that extracts the data that's required. In the first test, we had a one-to-one relationship, so one sensor, one person, but the target is actually to have to put this, let's call it radar camera, into the corner of a room and then cover the entire room with half a dozen people or whatever. Another topic coming from breath analysis is that we do chemical analysis of breath by measuring the concentration of VOCs, volatile organic compounds, which can be used as a biomarker for a broad range of diseases, including infections, inflammation, cancer, but of course also everything that's related to the lung and to breathing of people. It has a great potential for early detection of diseases, and of course because it's non-invasive, it's quite easy to do that. here also our goal is to shrink the size of the system from a lab style environment into a portable system, maybe comparable to an alcohol test system, and that can be done because we have realized the central element, the filter that actually gives the basic information about the concentration. We have realized this filter element in MEMS technologies on silicon wafers, so we can shrink it down, and also at the same time can produce it on larger volumes, so that we can increase the number of devices that can be manufactured. And at the end, we're actually able to differentiate between different VOCs in human breath, as it's shown here in this heat map, where we can differentiate between acetone and pentanone, which are two biomarkers for certain diseases. Acetone, for instance, for diabetes, and even at this stage, we use machine learning algorithms to process the data that we generate. Even more quickly, here's this vest that gives us spatial resolved information about the pulmonary function of the lung. Also, it can be worn as a vest with 20 microphones integrated, and by that you get this, let's call it an image of the function of the lung. We have the sensor wristlet, which is really comparable to Fitbit and Apple Watch, but here the idea is actually to have a medical grade type of information, so that it can be used for diagnosis, as it was discussed in the opening talk of this afternoon by the colleague from Mayo. Then we the second last is this ultrasound spirometry based on ultrasonic technology for measuring physical parameters of human breath, so breathing volume, breathing frequency, and so on. And last but not least, we have this hyperspectral camera, also covering an entire room, not just one person, that gives a contactless monitoring of the pulse and of the SpO2 level of the persons in the room. Then we gathered all those information that comes out of those 7 sensor system and put it into an existing artificial intelligence framework developed by another Fraunhofer group, and try to process the data so far that we can up with this traffic light indication here. So between red, yellow, and green about the condition of the patient, and then this can be as some early diagnosis can fed into the digital system of the hospital as an early diagnosis that can then be further validated or processed by a human doctor. There is some ideas about the communication concept, how to build this. We weren't able, for reasons of time, to actually implement this. So we have this number of personal health devices, as we call it. They are connected to this analyzer PC that does the artificial intelligence processing of the data, and the communication between the personal health devices and the analyzer. We recommend to use an open standard, which is IEEE 11073, for transmitting this data, and then the information that comes out of all these sensor data, the diagnosis, so to speak, is then transformed by standard called HL7 into the digital health records of this specific patient. So we did all the regulatory work that's necessary actually to bring the systems into the clinics with the help of some medical consultancy that we have, and then all those systems were actually preclinical tested with around 30 probants each at hospitals, not at patients, but as people at other doctors, people that came voluntarily into the hospital to do the test, and the data that we acquired were then compared by the doctors at the hospital, if we come up with the correct medical information and the correct medical data, which was the case. So to conclude my talk, so we had this technical results, the 7 sensor system that I presented, the regular requirements and approvals we achieved, and we have the concept for the system integration. This is something we still have to work on. We did this testing in the hospital as a best practice, sorry. And currently we have started the commercial exploitation of those sensor systems. We are in talks with large companies, SMEs, and so on to pick up the ideas that we have developed during the course of the project. And that's it. I have to thank my colleague Christian Münzenmeier for the coordination of the work. Of course, I have to thank all the Fraunhofer people that have been involved in this project. You see all the different logos from all the different institutes that were involved. And of course, I have to thank the Fraunhofer Society for spending the money for this, and I thank for your attention.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. Great talk, and you guys are working on a lot of very impressive things. So thank you for sharing and giving this information. Let's take a question or two. So this is from George Smolensky from Nanoscribe. I guess a general question, but how do you define medical grade wearables data versus consumer grade? I may have missed this definition. So,
well, I don't know if there is an exact definition, but we had this earlier on in the talk from Mayo. Of course, it must be free from any unnecessary or unwanted noise and so on. And of course, it needs a lot of reference between data that is measured by a golden standard or whatever, and by this wristlet in our case, to compare if we actually measure the same data within a given accuracy. I think that's the some sort of a definition of medical grade. I don't have a Wikipedia type definition what it really means.
Sure. Yeah, and I know George, thanks for the question. I know it's probably definition is going to be somewhat different with everybody, but I think Michael, I think it's a good way to define it. And then another question. So there's actually George has another question. George Smolensky from Nanoscribe. For your wrist wearable, what are the differences from the device from Rockley Photonics? So there was a talk yesterday from Rockley Photonics. Michael, can you comment on this?
Not in full detail, so to be honest. I've listened to the talk from Rockley. There wasn't too much difference at the very end, to be honest. But when we started this whole effort, this device was not known to us. So.
Yeah, sure. And George, good question. I encourage you to reach out to Michael, maybe to discuss in a little bit more detail. Yeah. So please reach out to Michael and his colleagues. Fraunhofer has a booth as well, Umbrella, so you can check it out there. Looks like there's another question coming in, so let's squeeze in one more. This question is from Andrew from Diabetic Health, Inc. Thank you, Michael. How many devices would the patient wear at one time during monitoring? Is it inhibitory at all to their treatment or patient movement? Thank you, Andrew.
No, the idea is of course for the wearable devices that the patient is still able to move almost as normal. For instance, that was one of the key requirements for the development of this ECG belt system, that the patient is still mobile, can still walk around, and is not tied to the bed, for instance, while wearing this system. That was a prerequisite for actually developing all those 3 different wearable devices that were listed in my talk.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Again, encourage everybody to reach out to Michael, check out their booth, Umbrella. And Michael, thanks again for joining us. Good evening to you in Germany, and appreciate you being a speaker.
Thank you for having the opportunity today. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Yep. Bye-bye.